Be me, Tiffany. I work in sales at a pretty decent company downtown. It's not a bad gig. The pay is good, the work is easy enough if you know how to talk to people, which I do. My best friend Lauren works in the same department. Our desks are right next to each other. Honestly, the social life at the office is half the reason I don't look for another job. Most days are pretty chill. We hit our targets, we spend a lot of time just chatting and scrolling through our phones. The office is probably like 60-40 men to women, so there's always attention if you want it. And we want it. It's like a little ecosystem. You have the senior managers who are mostly married and boring. You have the hotshot sales guys who are always flying around, super competitive, and honestly kinda hard to pin down. Fun for a flirt, but that's it. And then you have the others. The reliable guys, the IT guys, the analysts, the logistics dudes. They're the background characters of the office? Nice enough, I guess. One of them is Tristan from Analytics. He's the definition of a nice guy. Not ugly, but not hot. Just there. Always has this slightly hopeful puppy dog look on his face whenever he talks to me or Lauren. He's tried to ask me out a few times over the last year. It's always kind of awkward. He'll hang around our desks, trying to join our conversation, laughing a little too hard at our jokes. We're polite, of course. We're not monsters. But it's painfully obvious he's not in our league. The story really starts on some random morning, maybe a Tuesday. Lauren and I are talking about this guy I met over the weekend. He was a DJ at this rooftop bar, super confident, a little arrogant, my type. He hadn't texted me back yet, and I was complaining about it. Lauren was telling me I should just ignore him, play the game, you know how it is. Suddenly, Tristan appears at our desks. He's holding 2 mugs of the crappy office coffee. He's got that nervous smile on his face. Morning, Tiffany, Lauren. Figured you two could use a jump start to the day. I don't even look up from my phone, where I'm rereading my last text to the DJ. Oh, Tristan, that is so sweet of you. But I only drink oat milk lattes from the grind downstairs. This stuff is like battery acid. Lauren kinda giggles next to me. Yeah, but thanks for the thought, T, she says, not even calling him by his full name. You could literally feel the air go out of him. His smile just deflated. Oh, right, no problem. Well, have a good morning. He shuffled back to his desk on the other side of the office, holding both mugs. Lauren waited until he was out of earshot. God, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion every single time. Doesn't he get the hint? I finally looked up from my phone. I know, right? It's almost sad, but what can you do? At least he's predictable. We laughed and went back to dissecting my dating life. That was the normal, that was the baseline. Tristan was the reliable, slightly pathetic background noise to our main story. For the next week or two, nothing really changed. He'd still walk by, give a little wave, we'd give a polite, dismissive smile back. The DJ never did text me back for a second date, by the way. Typical. Lauren and I kept busy. We went out for drinks after work a couple of times. We'd get hit on by the usual assortment of guys. Some were okay, most were cringe. We'd let them buy us a drink or two and then ditch them to go dance. It was our routine. We were the prize, and they were the contestants. Most of them were getting voted off the island. We'd complain to each other. Why are all the good men taken or psycho? It was a fun complaint, though. It was a sign of our high standards. The first weird thing happened maybe a month after the coffee incident. Tristan walked past our desks in the morning and didn't even look at us. He had headphones in, was focused on his phone, and just walked straight to his desk. I remember pointing it out to Lauren. Tristan didn't do his morning pilgrimage to our desks today. Lauren shrugged. Maybe he finally got a clue. Or maybe he's just having a bad day. We didn't think much of it. In fact, it was kind of a relief. But then it happened the next day, and the day after that. No more awkward hovering. No more forced small talk. Just a quick nod if we made eye contact, and that was it. Around the same time, we noticed other small changes. There were a few other guys in the office like Tristan, quiet, kinda nerdy, always willing to help with a computer problem or stay late to finish a report. Wilson from marketing, Amari from logistics. The worker bees. They used to be part of the background audience too, always liking our social media posts, always ready with a compliment. That started to fade. One day I saw all 3 of them, Tristan, Wilson, and Amari, leaving the office together at lunchtime. They were in gym clothes. Where are they going? I asked Lauren. She craned her neck to look. I think they're going to that cheap gym down the street. Weird. It was weird. They were forming a little club or something. They'd come back an hour later, sweaty and talking about things we didn't understand. Stuff about macros and progressive overload. It was a different language, a boring language. Their whole vibe started to change. They seemed less available. They weren't orbiting us anymore. They were in their own orbit. The real turning point came a few weeks later. It was a Friday. Lauren and I were planning our night. We were trying to decide between two different clubs. I was getting up to go to the kitchen to make some tea when I walked past a group of them by the water cooler. It was Tristan and Wilson. They were talking quietly. I pretended I was looking for my mug so I could eavesdrop. Wilson was saying something like, "Dude, I almost caved and downloaded a dating app again last night. I was feeling lonely." I rolled my eyes internally. So pathetic. But Tristan's response surprised me. "Nah, man, stay strong. Stick to the plan. It's only been 2 months. Think of the progress." Wilson nodded. "You're right. I've already saved so much money not going on pointless dates, and I can actually bench my body weight now." Then Tristan said the phrase that I would later come to hate. "Exactly. Just stay in monk mode, focus on the goals, the rest is just noise." Monk mode? What the hell was monk mode? I grabbed my mug and walked back to my desk, trying not to look like I had been listening. "You are not going to believe what I just heard," I told Lauren. I recounted the whole conversation. She burst out laughing. "Monk mode? Are they serious? They've created a little boys' club because they can't get dates." I laughed too. It was hilarious. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. They're acting like giving up is some kind of achievement. We made fun of them for the rest of the afternoon. We called them the office monks. It was our little inside joke. But the joke started to feel less funny as time went on, because their monk mode was actually having a visible effect. Tristan started looking good. Not just, he lost a little weight, good. He was standing straighter. His cheap work shirt seemed to fit him better across the shoulders. He stopped looking at the ground when he walked. He made eye contact, not in a hopeful, needy way, but in a neutral, confident way. It was unnerving. The same was true for the others. Wilson got a better haircut. Amari started dressing better. They weren't trying to impress us. They seemed to be doing it for themselves, for each other. Their conversations were different now. I'd hear them talking about stocks, about a coding project one of them was working on, about planning a camping trip. They had a whole world that had nothing to do with us. My validation supply from the office started to dry up. It was like a tap being slowly turned off. I didn't realize how much I relied on that low-level hum of male attention until it was gone. The compliments on a new dress, the offers to get me coffee, the guys lingering around my desk just to be near me. It all just stopped. The hotshot sales guys were still around, but they were always busy or chasing after the new intern. They weren't reliable. The office monks had been the reliable ones. I decided I needed to test the waters, to see if I still had the old magic. One afternoon, I saw Tristan walking down the hallway alone. Perfect. I put on my best smile and walked toward him. "Tristan, hey, I feel like I haven't properly talked to you in ages." He stopped and pulled out an earbud. He was listening to a podcast or something. "Oh, hey Tiffany, yeah, it's been a busy quarter. How are you?" His tone was friendly, but it was just friendly, like how you'd talk to a random coworker you barely know. There was no spark of hope in his eyes. "I'm great. Super busy too. Listen, Lauren and I are going to that new cocktail place on 5th Street tonight for happy hour. You should totally come with us. It'll be fun." I said it with a little flick of my hair. The old move? It always worked. He gave me a polite, small smile. "That's a nice offer, Tiffany. Thanks. But I can't tonight." I waited for the excuse. "I have to do laundry. I have to feed my cat." Something lame. "I've got my boxing class at 6, and then I promised Wilson I'd help him change the brakes on his car. We're trying to learn how to do it ourselves." I was speechless for a second. Boxing? Car repairs? These were not Tristan activities. "Oh, okay. Well, some other time maybe," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Yeah, maybe. Have a good night." He put his earbud back in and walked away. I stood there in the middle of the hallway, completely stunned. He didn't just say no, he said no with a better offer. With a life. I walked back to my desk and told Lauren. She was just as shocked as I was. "He turned you down? To go fix a car? Is this a prank?" "I don't think so," I said, sinking into my chair. He was completely serious. We sat there in silence for a minute. The world felt a little bit tilted. That night, we went to the cocktail bar anyway. It was crowded and loud. We got a table and ordered our expensive drinks, and we waited. Usually, within 10 minutes, some guy would approach us, or at least send over a drink. Nothing. We watched as men at the bar talked in their own groups. They were laughing, watching the game on the TV, talking to the bartender. They weren't scanning the room. They weren't on the hunt. We sat there for an hour. Not a single guy approached us. We started to feel invisible. "What is wrong with this place?" Lauren finally said, stirring her drink aggressively. "Is it a full moon or something? The men in this city have gotten so weird." I looked around the room. I saw groups of women, just like us, sitting at tables, looking beautiful and bored. And I saw groups of men who seemed perfectly happy to be in their own company. It wasn't just the office monks. It was bigger than that. I started to feel a cold knot of dread in my stomach. This wasn't a phase. This was a shift. We tried to salvage the night. We started talking to each other loudly, laughing in an exaggerated way to draw attention. Nothing. I even tried the old trick of accidentally dropping my napkin near a table of guys. One of them picked it up, handed it to me with a quick, "Here you go," and immediately turned back to his friends. No follow-up, no, "Can I buy you a drink?" No witty line. It was like we were ghosts. We left the bar early, feeling dejected and confused. On the ride home, Lauren was ranting, "It's the internet. It's broken men's brains. They don't know how to talk to women in person anymore." I just stared out the window. I was thinking about Tristan. I was thinking about how he used to look at me, like I was the answer to a question he was afraid to ask, and how he looked at me in the hallway today, like I was just some person. It was worse than being rejected. It was being reclassified. I went from being a prize to being irrelevant. The next few weeks were more of the same. The office was quiet. The dating apps were a wasteland of low-effort profiles and guys looking for something casual. The confidence I used to carry around like a designer handbag started to feel cheap and worn. I started to notice things I never did before. I noticed how often I checked my phone for notifications that weren't coming. I noticed how much of my self-worth was tied to the constant, low-grade attention from men I didn't even respect. Lauren was getting desperate. She actually suggested we go to a speed dating event. I shot that down immediately. She started complaining more about toxic masculinity. "This is what it is," she'd say. "Men are so fragile that a little rejection makes them retreat into their little man caves. They can't handle strong, independent women." A few months ago, I would have agreed with her instantly, but now her words sounded hollow, because I didn't see fragility in the way Tristan and his friends acted. I saw peace. They seemed calm, focused, unbothered. They weren't angry or resentful. They were just busy. Busy building their bodies, their skills, their friendships. They had opted out of the game, and Lauren and I were left standing on the field, all dressed up with nowhere to play. The company announced the annual corporate party. It was going to be at a fancy hotel ballroom downtown. In previous years, this was our Super Bowl. We'd spend weeks planning our outfits. The party was a chance to be seen, to be admired. This year, the excitement felt forced. "We have to look amazing," Lauren said, her voice sounding a little too determined. "We need to remind them what they're missing." I wasn't so sure. Who were we even trying to impress anymore? The hotshots would be there, sure, but they'd be schmoozing with the executives all night. And the office monks. I had a feeling they wouldn't even care. Still, we went through the motions. We bought new dresses. We got our hair and nails done. We were going to make an entrance. We were going to reclaim our thrones. Walking into that ballroom, I felt a flicker of the old confidence. The lights were dim, the music was playing, people were holding champagne glasses. This was our territory. We walked in, heads held high, and scanned the room. And then I saw them. Tristan and his crew were standing in a corner near the bar. But they weren't drinking alcohol. They all had bottles of water. Tristan was wearing a simple, well-fitted suit, no tie. He looked incredible. He wasn't just not bad anymore. He was genuinely handsome. They weren't looking around the room. They weren't checking out the women. They were in a circle, talking intensely. The CEO walked over to them and clapped Tristan on the shoulder. They all laughed about something. My heart sank. Lauren saw them too. "Okay," she whispered to me. "This is it. Time for the charm offensive. She thought it was still a game we could win. I knew, deep down, that we had already lost. Lauren grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the bar, aiming for a path that would take us right past their circle. "Just act natural," she hissed, plastering a huge smile on her face. I felt like an actress in a play I hadn't rehearsed for. As we got closer, I could hear what they were talking about. It wasn't about women or parties. Amari was showing something on his phone, a chart or a graph. "The initial investment is small, but if we can get the prototype built by Q3, we could pitch it for the innovation grant," he was saying. The CEO, Mr. Davidson, nodded thoughtfully. "That's ambitious, Amari. I like it. Tristan, what are your thoughts on the material sourcing?" This was not the conversation I was expecting. Lauren, completely oblivious, sailed into their group like a battleship. Well, look who's hiding in the corner. Don't tell me you boys aren't drinking tonight." The conversation stopped. 6 pairs of eyes turned to us. For a moment, there was just silence. It was the most awkward I've ever felt. Mr. Davidson, ever the professional, just smiled politely. "Ladies, enjoying the party?" "We are now," Lauren said, directing a flirtatious smile at Tristan. I just wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Tristan looked at us. There was no anger in his eyes, no victory, not even annoyance. It was just polite recognition. The way you'd look at the mailman. "Hey, Lauren, Tiffany," he said, his voice even. We were just talking about a project. He made no move to include us. He didn't explain what the project was. He didn't introduce us to the CEO, even though we all knew him. We were an interruption, an irrelevance. I tried to salvage the situation. "Oh, sorry to interrupt business talk," I said, trying to sound breezy. "We were just grabbing a drink. Don't let us keep you." Lauren shot me a furious look. She wasn't ready to retreat. She stepped closer to Tristan, placing a hand on his arm, a move that used to make guys melt. "Oh, come on, Tristan. It's a party. Lighten up a little. One drink won't kill you." He looked down at her hand on his arm and then back up at her face. He didn't flinch or pull away. He just waited. After a beat of silence, she awkwardly removed her hand. He gave a small, non-committal smile. "I'm good with water, thanks. I'm driving a few of the guys home later." The finality in his tone was absolute. There was no room for argument. Mr. Davidson clapped his hands together. "Well, I'll leave you young innovators to it. Great ideas, gentlemen. Let's talk more next week." He gave them a nod, a brief glance at us, and walked away. The moment he was gone, the circle closed again, as if we were never there. They turned back to Amari's phone, resuming their conversation at a lower volume. We were left standing on the outside, completely and utterly dismissed. Lauren's face was a mask of disbelief and rage. She grabbed my arm and dragged me away, toward the other side of the ballroom. "What the hell was that?" she seethed once we were out of earshot. "That was them. That was the office monks," I said, my voice flat. "He completely blew me off, in front of the CEO. Who does he think he is?" I didn't have an answer. I was starting to think he knew exactly who he was. The problem was that we had no idea who we were anymore. The rest of the party was a blur. We tried to mingle. We talked to some of the sales guys, but they were distracted, always looking over our shoulders for someone more important to talk to. The atmosphere of the whole event felt different this year. Less of a meat market, more of a networking event. The men were talking to other men about work, about projects, about investments. The women were mostly talking to other women about how boring the party was. We left early. We didn't even say goodbye to anyone. In the Uber on the way home, Lauren was still fuming. "This is toxic masculinity. This is what it looks like. They get rejected a few times, so they form a little cult and pretend they're above it all. It's pathetic." I just stayed quiet. Was it pathetic? Or was it smart? They had taken all the energy they used to spend on chasing us, on trying to get our approval, and they had poured it into themselves. And it was working. They were getting promotions. They were getting healthier. They were building real friendships and real projects. What were we doing? We were spending our energy and money on dresses and makeup to get the attention of men who weren't even looking. The next week at work was hell. The story of Lauren's failed advance on Tristan had somehow gotten around the office. We were the butt of quiet jokes. People would look at us and then quickly look away, whispering to their coworkers. It was humiliating. For the first time, I felt like the office loser, Lauren reacted with anger. She became sharp and defensive with everyone. I reacted by withdrawing. I kept my head down, did my work, and went straight home. I started observing Tristan and his friends more closely, not with judgment, but with a kind of morbid curiosity. They had a routine. They'd come in, work hard, go to the gym at lunch, and leave on time. There was an efficiency to their lives that I almost envied. There was no drama, no guessing games, no waiting for a text. Their world seemed so simple, so clean. One afternoon, I was the last one to leave our section. I saw Tristan at his desk, packing up his bag. On an impulse, I walked over. I don't even know what I was planning to say. He looked up as I approached, a neutral expression on his face. "Hey," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Hey, Tiffany, working late?" "No, just leaving now." An awkward silence hung between us. "Listen," I said, forcing the words out. "About the party. I wanted to apologize. We were out of line, interrupting you like that." It was the first time I had ever apologized to a guy like him. He seemed genuinely surprised. He leaned back in his chair and studied my face for a moment. "It's fine. Don't worry about it." "No, it wasn't fine," I insisted. "It was rude. And Lauren, she was just—" I trailed off, not wanting to throw my friend under the bus, even though I wanted to. "It's okay," he said again, his voice a little softer. "We were just in the middle of a serious discussion. The timing was just off." I nodded, feeling a little bit of the tension leave my shoulders. "So, this monk mode thing," I said, trying to make it sound like a casual question, "is that a real thing?" He actually chuckled, a small, genuine sound. "I guess you could call it that. It started as a joke, really." He paused as if deciding whether to continue. "A few of us were just tired of the whole dating scene. It felt like a part-time job that you paid for, and the boss hated you." I flinched. That was a direct hit, whether he meant it to be or not. "It felt like we were constantly auditioning for a role we were never going to get," he continued, looking past me at the empty office. "Putting in all this effort, time, and money for what? A few dates with someone who's on their phone the whole time, just waiting for someone better to come along?" My face burned with shame. I had been that girl. So many times. "So we just decided to stop," he said with a shrug. "All of us. We made a pact. For 6 months, no dating apps, no asking girls out, no buying drinks at bars. Just stop." "And what was the point?" I asked, genuinely curious now. "The point was to see what would happen if we took all that energy and put it back into ourselves. Our health, our finances, our skills, our friendships with each other." He looked directly at me. "And it's been the best 6 months of my life. I've never been in better shape. I've almost paid off my student loans. Wilson is learning to code. Amari is building a side business. We actually talk to each other, support each other. It's not a competition." I stood there, speechless. He had just perfectly articulated everything that was wrong with my world, and everything that was right with his. My world was a competition. Who was prettier? Who had the hotter boyfriend? Who got the most likes? It was exhausting. His world was about collaboration, about building, about self-respect. "So, what happens after the 6 months are up?" I asked quietly. He smiled a little. It was a real smile this time. It reached his eyes. "I don't know. I honestly haven't thought about it. I'm not sure I want to go back to the way things were." He stood up and slung his backpack over his shoulder. "Anyway, I've got to go. Meeting the guys for dinner. You have a good night, Tiffany." "You too, Tristan," I said. I watched him walk out of the office. He didn't look back. I went back to my desk and sat there in the dark, empty room for a long time. Everything he said echoed in my head. A part-time job that you paid for, and the boss hated you. Auditioning for a role we were never going to get. I'm not sure I want to go back. That conversation changed everything for me. It was like a switch had been flipped. I couldn't unsee what I had seen. I started to pull away from Lauren. Her constant complaining about men started to sound pathetic to me. She was still fighting a war that was already over. The other side had just packed up and gone home. I stopped going out as much. The bars and clubs felt like sad, desperate places now. I deleted the dating apps from my phone. The endless swiping felt meaningless. I started focusing on myself. I know how cliché that sounds, but it was true. I started going to the gym in the mornings before work. I started cooking my own meals instead of ordering takeout every night. I enrolled in an online course for project management, something I had been putting off for years. I was terrible at it at first. I felt clumsy at the gym. My cooking was bland. The course material was hard, but I stuck with it because for the first time, I was doing something for me. Not for attention, not for validation from some guy, just for me. A few months went by, life was quiet, but it was a good quiet, a peaceful quiet. I didn't talk to Tristan much, beyond the usual office pleasantries. There was no need to. We were on our own paths, but for the first time, it felt like we were walking in the same direction. The story doesn't end with us getting together. That's not the point. This isn't a romance novel. The point is that the game completely changed. They didn't protest. They didn't get angry. They didn't write manifestos about how unfair everything was. They just quit. They walked off the field. And they left people like me and Lauren standing there, holding the ball, realizing that the stadium was empty. We had built our entire sense of self-worth on being wanted by men. And when they stopped wanting us, we discovered that we had nothing else. I'm rebuilding now, from the ground up. Lauren is still single. She's on 3 different dating apps and complains constantly about how there are no good men left. I see Tristan in the hallways sometimes. He always gives me a friendly nod, a nod of respect. It's a different kind of validation. It's not the desperate, needy attention I used to crave. It's better. It's real. Because I'm not a prize to be won anymore, and he's not a contestant trying to win me. We're just 2 people, working on ourselves, living our lives. And I think that's how it's supposed to be. They went monk mode, they shunned dating, and we were stunned when no one asked us out. But the most stunning part wasn't that they stopped asking, it was realizing that we were the ones who had lost.